Jimmy and JoAnne, I've been kind of freaking out here on the streets of New York City as businesses close and the governor is awarded an Emmy, which is flabbergasting. How are you guys doing there in Texas?
We're doing very
good.
well.
Texas,
Nice, mild days, and people here are beginning to push back. So, we're happy to see that.
Everybody's going to have Thanksgiving here. They're not, the only people who are saying anything they can is like the mayors now and some criminal judge in Houston, but that's just for Houston. And people are saying, we're sorry, we're not doing this anymore.
So. There's been a bit of pushback in New York. We've got some sheriffs that are refusing to enforce this order, but we created an image today in honor of this Texas idea of, come and take it with the turkey. It really is terrible what they're proposing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you all had a good pushback in Buffalo. Those folks ran the sheriffs and the health department official out of their businesses and told them, where's your warrant? Well, that's the law. And they said, no law. Governor cannot make a law. So
you sent me that video yesterday, Jimmy, and I noticed something very unusual. The first police officer to respond, he had an Australian or a South African or a New Zealand accent. He didn't sound like a police officer from upstate New York to me. What did you think of that?
No. Well, we know for a fact, Jason, that there's at least 4 million mercenaries in the United States. A bunch of them were trained in Libya and Syria, all over. CIA put in 29 training centers in Libya to train people, and then when their English was good enough, they were given a new name and a new passport, immediately passed in the United States with a permanent green card, multiple entry visa, funded here with bank accounts. So they arrived here. They didn't have to have any ammunition, explosives. That was all supplied to them by the CIA and FBI in the United States. And that's the private army that Obama said he needed 3 million in the United States. Well, from our sources inside the government and everything, there's now over 4 million of those folks here. So having some from Australia and Spain and Germany, everything makes sense. And we believe that those are going to be the guys that are going to be the Gestapo or the SS that goes house to house, try to take your guns away from you or force that poison nail in your arm or whatever. So I noticed that, and I thought, let's see which CIA center this guy was trained at.
How could people determine something like that?
Well, if somebody comes to your door, and tries to force a vaccine on you, or...
No, you're talking about what CIA center that guy was trained at. How do you determine that?
Well, you don't know that, but you're going to know by their actions. This guy did not have an upper state New York accent.
Yeah, that's
Definitely
right.
not. And if you're going to come all the way from a country like that, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, why would you go to Buffalo, New York? I mean, There's nothing wrong with Buffalo, but I don't think there's that many
It's
people.
Really cold there.
And how would he become a sheriff? See, that was another telling thing, So we know Sheriff Mack, and we know that he's trying to get as many constitutional sheriffs as possible, because a constitutional sheriff really becomes the highest ranking official in any area.
Law enforcement.
Well, I know that.
Can we show this thing?
But for law enforcement, for enforcing everything.
Oh, this wasn't the one. There was a different video that you had sent me here. Well, people can look that up. It was very strange, though, to see this guy.
We got a link to it, Jason.
Yeah, it'll be a link on our PDF today.
Ah, okay, great. So when people tune in, right as soon as we're done with this, less than 25 minutes from now, people will be able to watch the sponsor-exclusive segment on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. Anybody who's joining us for the first time, a lot of people see me criticizing the Emmys and Andrew Cuomo for what is possibly a violation of IRS code. We're going to try and dig into that. People who are seeing Jimmy and JoAnne for the first time, they're going to want to watch the sponsor-exclusive segment right after this. Jimmy and JoAnne are the best source of human intelligence from Libya that the United States has ever had. What are we hearing from the Libyan tribes this week, guys? And what are we going to talk about during the sponsor-exclusive segment?
We're going to talk more about the UN forum that they had in Tunisia and all the bribery and corruption that was in there. And the UN's supposed to be investigating it, and the Libyan tribes came out and said, We will not have Turkey in our country. We do not agree with any of the Muslim Brotherhood. We don't want the Muslim Brotherhood in our country. It's a terrorist organization. And for the UN to infiltrate, 80-90% of the people at this meeting, they appointed them Muslim Brotherhood, and there's a bunch of bribery and corruption going on. This group is going to decide who's going to run the country for supposedly the next 18 months and then have an election. Muslim Brotherhood has been in there stealing from Libya.
They've been robbing that country blind just this year.
For the last 10 years.
But just this year, since January, they finally came out with an audit because the U.S., UN, and NATO turned over all the resources of Libya to this phony government that they installed. Doesn't have anything to do with the Libyan people.
That was
so
in
there's no water.
Yeah.
There's no water. There's no food. There's no electricity. No medicines. Medical facilities are almost inoperative. Yet that central bank that was completely controlled by this phony government received $3-point-something billion since January.
In
and
oil revenue.
They're saying that they have a shortfall of $200 million, and according to the audit of an outside accounting firm, they said there's $2.7 billion in excess. So that's pretty good. There's a $3 billion spread. This is the amount of theft that's been going on by the Muslim Brotherhood in complete collusion with the U.S., UN, and NATO. So, these kinds of atrocities have been continued. This has been 10 years. Rape the country blind, continue to rape it some more. Let's set everything off for 18 months.
The GNA is the phony government appointed by the UN in 2015 that made a bunch of promises at that appointment, not backed by the Libyan people, not backed by the legitimate government of Libya. They snuck that group into Tripoli, then said they were the real government, recognized them worldwide.
Who else recognized them?
The
US
UN
immediately.
and UN. But they've been stealing from Libya forever. They're in league with Erdogan of Turkey, who has brought his army in to take over Libya, who has this right here, what you have up there, Jason. They said GNA won't negotiate because the militias that they have in there, they aren't really militias. They're mercenaries, and they're like armies or they're just thugs. They're like mafia.
Paid mercenaries.
Yeah, paid mercenaries. But there's Libyans involved in it too, rats that were traitors to Libya. They don't want anything to do with this UN thing because the UN is going with the 5-5 agreement, which is the military agreement of a ceasefire. That means no foreign entities in Libya, no weapons of any kind delivered to Libya from foreign entities. No, Turkey has continued this to this day. We're going to talk about that. They have proof of that. And so the mercenaries in there, the militias, they don't want anything to do with it because that means they're out of business. And Erdogan says he doesn't recognize it. So we've got the continued state of chaos in Libya. This is a continued state. Yeah. All done by UN appointed Muslim Brotherhood. And remember Hillary Clinton's her emails. One of the purposes was to bring the Muslim Brotherhood into North Africa. That's why she blew up. One of the reasons she blew up Libya. Those people joined hands with her. They helped her blow up Libya so that there couldn't be a gold-backed dinar for Africa. Right. So she brought them in, and she has been funding them and arming them. All this kind of stuff going on under the table for a long, long time, and the Libyans are tired of it.
There have been sanctions in place. Not sanctions. There have been agreements by all the major countries that there should be no more mercenaries, no more weapons and everything brought into Libya from Turkey. And way back there, the French, in Qatar, way back there, the French tried to stop one of the Turkish ships from coming there. They fired upon the French ship. Typical of the French, they turned around, ran their ass out of the Mediterranean, said, wait a minute, we don't want to be shot at, And so every day to this day, plane loads are flying from Turkey into Libya, into Western Libya, bring in weapons and all kinds of military personnel. And now then ships are on the water, bring in vehicles and stuff. And when this group of countries, it's called Irene, tried to stop the Turkish ship, they shot. No,
they just refused to be boarded.
They refused, but they shot a shot across the bow of the other vessel.
This was a German vessel that tried to stop them. Said, "We know you have weapons on you. Cannot go into Misrata," and they refused to be boarded. They talked to the GNA. The GNA said, "We can't do anything." So
Wow.
in they went to Misrata with the weapons.
Wow.
See, this just continues on. It doesn't stop.
Yeah,
So,
we're going to stop the weapons. Winky, winky. You
well,
know?
no, they have to. No, Turkey has never said they'll stop the weapons.
No, I'm not talking about Turkey. I'm talking about the U.S. and UN
Yeah,
and
but
all
see,
the rest of them.
they'd have to fight with them. They'd have to shoot at them, and they haven't agreed to do that, I guess. So they're just letting them go.
Would you guys say would you guys say it's fair to say that the United States, at least overtly, has been kind of hands off of Libya during the Trump administration? There's been
Yes,
no?
yes, it has been kind of hands off.
Okay,
it has.
maybe by Trump, but by
Yeah.
the CIA and et cetera, no, they're right in the middle of it all the time. There has
Right.
been continued. What's happened with the U.S., their representatives, like the ambassador from the U.S., has gone to Brooke and encouraged all those duly elected officials from the Libyan people. They said, oh, well, you've got to have residence outside of Libya. Your salary should be increased. So all of a sudden, all these guys have got a $200 to $2 million home in some foreign land. They've upped their salaries about 10 times. The Libyan people don't have water, food, medicine, or anything. And the U.S. is encouraged. They said, you've got to have that to have the panache, to have the acceptability worldwide. You have to look like a real government.
Yeah, but Jason, the woman who's running this UN mess is an American.
Stephanie
So
Williams.
they have their finger in it. There's no doubt in my mind their finger is in it big time. They don't show their face, but she is an appointed. Listen, it's stupid if you think about it. Why don't the Libyans have their own representative at the UN? Why does the UN appoint an American or a German or a Spanish guy to be their representative? The Libyan tribes are really angry about that. They tell me all the time, this is a great shame for us. We are very angry. We have a right to represent our own country. We don't want some American, some German, somebody else representing us. And you can't blame them.
No,
But
I don't.
you gotta
What
remember,
does she know about Libyan
You got to
culture?
remember, Jason, Trump said a couple of years ago he has no control over the foreign policy of the United States. So, obviously somebody else is running this stuff.
It's
He's got
troubling,
enough
of
trouble
course.
here in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's like, no matter who you are, no matter what your job is, it's like you've got this bucket of stuff that you can deal with. And once it fills up and overflows, no matter how important the things coming into it are, it's all spilling out. There's no way Trump can deal with all of this
There's too
stuff
much.
as one
That's right.
person. And I think we're learning more about just the depth of the complexity. I mean, the deep state is so integrated. I mean, we use this word, the deep state. There's a lot of people who perhaps think that's a conspiracy theory. What we're talking about is this bureaucratic establishment that exists no matter who the president is or who the prime minister of any particular country is. These ambassadors, these appointees, these various people at different levels of governments around the world. This bureaucracy is taking over everything.
Jason, BlackRock Bank owns 160 central banks, including the U.S., Europe, Germany, France, Japan. It's 160 central banks. And in effect, they own all the politicians in those 160 countries because they control the purse strings. Just like here in the United States, whatever the Fed dictates is how the money rolls. And since they're printing money out of thin air, it's all fiat money. And so it's completely phony, no substance behind it, yet they control everything. So, if you want to see if there's a deep state, the banksters, these criminal bankers who absolutely control the purse strings in most of the world. And anytime they want to buy a country, they'll go in and start an economic warfare first.
Yeah.
And then they have the puppet military go in there and finally start to take action with false flag operations, et cetera, like we saw in Libya. We're seeing
Well,
that
look at
here
their
in the United
website,
States.
Jimmy. It says,
Yeah.
can crisis be a catalyst for change? What you're describing is exactly what is being done right here in the city that
Yes,
I'm
sir.
in.
Yes,
sir.
COVID-19 is having, I think, far more of an economic effect on New York City than it is actually a public health effect. I mean, we've seen everybody that I talk to, I ask them, how many people do you know who got coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we want to call it? And very few people that I know know anybody who has it, but everybody
Jason.
I speak to knows somebody who's lost a business, lost their job,
That's
having
right.
some
And
major
Jason,
family
we're going
problems.
to cover that in our regular show. We're going to talk about how this COVID, and they talk about it, the Great Reset. The COVID was the catalyst for that. It was
Right.
never.
It
It
was
was
a-
never a medical problem. It was always a political event.
It's a pandemic.
And it was a pandemic started 14 years ago when 194 countries signed on to it. It's been defined, and that has been their reason to reset the world where they control everything.
Yeah. Right.
New World
And I mean,
Order.
this
Changed
is the
their name.
world,
Yeah.
the World Economic Forum that talks about this great reset, not
Yeah.
us. So if YouTube thinks we're talking about conspiracy theories or whatever, hopefully
Well,
they will know.
you know
that
who
we're just-
invented that term conspiracy theory, Jason?
The CIA.
Yes, and what it is anybody putting out the truth is going to be tagged as an idiot.
Jason,
Right.
the videos we're going to show later are official from the World Economic Forum, Klaus and his criminals and all that stuff.
Yep.
So, there's proof from their own mouths what they're going to do and how they're going to do
The
it.
Great Reset, you can if you redefine that term, Great Reset, it's New World Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about the New World Order, so they renamed it. This is what they do with Al Qaeda. With the Libyans told us, they just changed the name to confuse you. ISIS, Al Qaeda, Ansar al-Sharia. He says everybody goes, oh, that's a different group. No, they're all the same. They're all the
COVID-19 is
same.
a great opportunity for us to affect the Great Reset.
Yeah, and whether anybody's sick or not doesn't matter. We can manipulate the numbers. We can manipulate the information. We can contain the narrative. Everybody will believe us because we keep saying it. We keep saying it. We keep saying it. So people believe us, and fear is the greatest tool they have.
Yeah.
So they use that.
Mel is telling us in the comments that he shudders at the concept of a Biden presidency. What are the tribes people of Libya telling you guys this week about the developments that are happening surrounding this question of Joe Biden considering himself?
They shudder like Mel does. They don't want Joe Biden in
They
there.
said, if you want the United States to look like Libya, then put Biden in. A failed state, destroyed. Nobody has anything.
Stealing from it. Nobody has any freedom. Nobody has any house anymore.
Jesse James is running the country.
It's troubling. I mean, we're trying to do everything that we can to get this to stop. I want to raise people's awareness about this Emmy Award that was given to Andrew Cuomo because it's so bizarre. And the Emmys, frankly, I think most people consider so stupid and inconsequential that they just ignore it. It's like a television award. Who really cares? But it is important. People have said to me, oh, well, why are the Emmys giving Andrew Cuomo an award? The point is, when you receive an Emmy Award, the difference between an Emmy Award-winning television show and one that does not, the one that wins the Emmy charges more for advertising, gets renewed that season. I mean, it is a form of approval, and here is a well-established body. It's 70-something, 80-something years old, 1940-something they established it, and they're giving their approval in an unprecedented way. No politician has ever received an Emmy Award before. This is why I'm putting so much attention on it, because I also feel that this is being done deliberately. Remember, the Emmys are suing me. There's all these different versions of it. There's the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. These are essentially sock puppet personas for these things to use. So if one of them isn't exactly suing me, maybe they can give Cuomo an award to help these other things, or maybe they're involved, they become involved in the lawsuit. The point of the matter
it's
is,
an award for a fucking show, pardon the French. It's an award for a show. Is the bastard an actor?
Yep.
What is he? It's a show. It's an award for a show. Give me a break.
It's an award for people who act.
Job well
it's a
done.
propaganda award. I want to get very granular on our analysis of these national academies of television, because I believe they were formed by the War Information Office when it was dismantled in 1947 after World War II. I believe they formed these entities, these national academies, to give out awards because they're basically anointing the propagandists who are
Right.
the good little boys and girls that tell the story the way they want it. If you're Andrew Cuomo and you lock down New York City and cause everybody to believe the hospital's overrun and you better stay inside with a mask or sit in a plastic tent instead of a restaurant with uncirculated air. If you go to an old age home or a care home, you're going to get COVID in there and die. That gets you an Emmy Award. If you are on Crowdsource the Truth or your name is Jason Goodman and you start exposing facts that don't align with their story, then you get sued, you get maligned, you get your YouTube channel shut down. So it's really important that people join us for the sponsor exclusive segment of the show. It's going to be starting in just under 10 minutes on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. JoAnne, give us just a little more overview of what we're going to be talking about in 5 minutes, if you could.
Okay, I will, Jason. I just want to tell everybody, if they don't know who we are, they can look at our website, Libyan War the Truth.
Yes.
Jimmy and I we're business people. We're in the oil and gas industry. We worked in Libya since beginning in 2007. We were back, we went there many times, but we were back during the time NATO blew it up. We're eyewitnesses to the war crimes and the crimes against humanity that were done by NATO. And we were actually captured by Al Qaeda during that time, and where we escaped by 3 miracles. And we've had the DIA, the CIA, the FBI, and many other agencies in our home. We've been attacked, we've been soft killed, we've been blacklisted.
Had all our bank accounts taken from us, had our business killed.
The reason we're going public, the reason we stay public, is because it helps our life to be alive, and the Libyan tribes. We are the official spokesperson for them. They don't have a voice. The tribes are all the people in Libya, because all the people in Libya are members of tribes. And so we feel like we need to be a voice for them.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of who we are. Plus,
and
we
the
have
Libyan
a lot
tribes have never selected anybody like you guys to speak on their behalf in the United States. I think it's important for people to sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on Patreon, and also, if you do that, you can purchase their DVD, Escape from Al Qaeda. The disc is $15 and shipping is $5, but sponsors on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty get the DVD with free shipping. So that's a great way to save some money and learn about what was going on there in Libya.
And is going on here now in the United States.
Right. That's right. It's shocking.
It was
Yeah.
It's their plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people in Texas are resisting these orders to shut down Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving is canceled. My family has decided, we have some older relatives and it's just people are uncomfortable. I'm walking all around New York City talking to whoever, so I'm banned from Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, people in Texas aren't really afraid of their government so much. They're more independent, I think. Mostly they don't, there's some big cities in Texas, but a lot of spread, nothing like New York, they're spread out more. And there's a lot of rural communities here. People are independent here. They work they live, pay their bills. And
we see way too many people wearing masks, but that's only when they're going to stores and stuff like that. But in their homes and in their neighborhoods,
we were at a birthday party. We went to a birthday party this weekend. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And nobody wore a mask. There was no mask. And they made, what is it called?
Cabrito.
No, that's cool. They made carnitas.
Carnitas, yeah.
They
slaughtered a hog.
A good friend of our family.
Wow.
Yeah, they make some stuff. So they cooking outside, and we went inside and outside, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
Nobody had any problem with anything, And
Jimmy,
I noticed
you've just recovered. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, JoAnne.
That was my first outing.
Yeah.
That's
he had a lung infection. He didn't have the COVID thing that they call it.
Sorry, you were about to tell us about the carnitas and the birthday party.
Oh, well, we have a good family friend that lives up the road from us, and they raise pigs and they raise goats and a bunch of other stuff. We're out in the middle of nowhere, And so they were having a birthday party, and so they wanted us to come, and they had a big cauldron outside, like they do in Mexico. They fry the pork in lard, actually. It's called carnitas, and they season it and stuff, and then they have chili con carne and rice and tortillas and whatever they eat. It was nice stuff. It was all good. So we had a nice time. Even our little Walmart store, which is miles away from us here because we're way out in the middle of nowhere. Yesterday or day before yesterday, we were there, and Jason, 50% of the people didn't have masks on now.
Huh.
So people it's like there's a little, hey, I've been wearing a mask for 2 months. I didn't get sick and it's going up. Mask didn't help, obviously.
Yeah.
Seems to be the case. Well, I think we need to transition over to our sponsor exclusive segment now, guys. So we're going to get more into some of the details of what's going on in Texas and in Libya. I know people are going to want to hear about what's going on, the latest from the tribes, and how they interpret what's going on here in the United States. I'm finding just in my travels around New York City that people from countries outside the United States have a much better perspective on what is happening right now than people who have spent their entire lives in the United States. So I hope that viewers will join us over there.